Okay. Okay, let's give 2 more minutes, then we'll start.
Hello, Mr. Zaf.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's start, I think, until people, I'll give a brief introduction and then, yeah, we will kickstart. So, welcome to today's session after a week holiday here and probably a holiday in UK as well, Aaron.
Yeah, how's been?
Yeah. So Aaron Parsons is not a new person for us. So he joined our Global Educator Ambassador Community Program. He joined as a speaker for us. Today, here we are. He's again with us for the session today. So I will give a brief introduction of him. Aaron Parsons is the curriculum area lead for computing and ICT at Waverley Academy in England. So he has 19 years of experience teaching computing and ICT and has served as the curriculum area lead for computer science and ICT for the last 11 years. He has always been an early adopter of new technologies, constantly looking for ways to improve the experiences of his students. So AI has been one of the biggest changes to come into education and has been a key focus for him over the last couple of years as he explores how it can be used to support staff and students in the classroom while still maintaining the human elements such as critical thinking and problem solving. More than that, he is a Microsoft fellow for UK. Yeah, welcome, Aaron, and thank you again, and welcome you again. I hand it over to you.
Thank you for the introduction. So you saved me a little bit on that, so slashed a couple of minutes off this, certainly. But yeah, so I've been involved in the Microsoft community for about 5 years now, I think it is. I lose track. It was just after all the COVID lockdowns that I really became involved, and I've been a fellow for the last 4. And obviously what we've had now is this year, we've had the rebranding, of course. So it's not the Microsoft Innovative Educator community. It's now the Microsoft Elevate for Educators community. And as such, they've added separate tiers into it, or new tiers into it, I should say, that rather than it just being apply for the expert, there's the Explorer tier. And we're going to spend some time today just exploring, talk about what it is in the introduction to sort of AI in the classroom. I will also be touching on elements of the expert pathway as well, because the courses that you do as part of the Learn platform that we'll come to later on in this came on and changed for the Explorer one. So certain bits move, but all the ones that are in there dovetail into the expert one as well. So it's all good, and it's all the theory that underpins it. So I will try and put some interactive bits in this. There'll be a few sort of question and answer bits for you to respond in the chat. And if you've got any questions as well, please feel free to ask them. I've got the chat open, so I should be able to see them and respond to that. And when we get to the end, if anyone has any questions from that, we can go into those. So the first bit we come to really is probably that most important question is, what is AI? And before we start looking at how to think about what it is in the classroom, it's that exact thing. So the question I'll pose to you now is, because everybody's at different stages, AI is mostly what in education? And this question really does come straight off the Elevate Educator Explorer AI course. It's on one of the first pathways, and it's a thinking point. Sorry, I talk in my hands if they appear in the screen. It's really a thinking point for that they'll ask you on there. So 2 minutes, just have a think. What do you think AI mostly is in education? What's it for? How might it be used? I'll give you 2 minutes and sort of put your answers in the chat, and we'll have a look at those, and then we'll move on. So if you've not used it, if you use it, how can it help you in your practice? If you have used it, how have you used it already? There's a lot of people on here. Obviously, you're going to have that interest in AI. You may well already started either dipping a toe in it or be using it regularly. So I'd love to sort of see and hear what it is you're doing. One from, I think it's Yvette. I am relatively bad with names in terms of pronunciation, so I do apologize for that. Helping lesson creation and essay analysis. Yes, it is. We'll look actually towards the tail end of this when we look at the teach module, some tools that are there for lesson planning. But we can use it for essay analysis as well. I haven't put anything in here about AI detection, because generally as a rule of thumb, I would say stay away from them because they are wrong as much as they are right. Guidelines and rules to be put in place for things like that would be my starting point, and how you judge it and look at it against other samples of students' work. But in terms of use of grammar, and if you're looking for specific words and terms in essays or a general overview of them, yes, it is great for that. You could construct a prompt and upload the essays and get that from there. Creativity driver is a great one, yeah. It's great for ideas. You can use it like a tool to bounce ideas off, and it's good for that, and it builds those skills in sort of looking at your prompts and things, and we'll move on to that. So I think if we go to the next one, it is, and it's a really quite an open question. What it is, it's different things to different people, yet probably the same to a lot of us as well. It's, resource creation, practicing speaking skills and giving feedback. Yes, there are some specific tools from that. I think it was David's session a couple of weeks ago. He looked at some of the learning accelerators, and Speaking Progress, Speaking Coach are in there, and they can help with that, with pronunciation on terms as well. And there's Reading Progress and Coach as well. So there are lots of tools which are AI backed that use that. So we also, why does AI matter in education? And as educators, how can we use this new technology? And a lot of times I've talked to people, it's very much like in the 90s, where the internet suddenly really had, oh, it's going to be a massive problem. People are just going to search for answers. And as we know, people did use it for that. People will try and use AI to cheat. But the point we're at now, and the position we're in as educators, I really feel, is in teaching students how to use it and how to then maintain that human approach. As Nusra said, that critical thinking and how we can look at it. So why it matters, it's a support tool. As we said, it's going to help us. We can use it to analyze data and outputs without any independent thought. We can look at it purely from statistics. How many students scored more than this? How many scored less than this? What's the difference between males and females, or students with SEN needs? What are the gaps? What are the differences? We can just put it in and we can get that raw data out if we're just looking at performance. Obviously, the professional judgment goes in as well, as with all of it, and that's going to be a reoccurring thing through this, is that as educators, whether you're a classroom teacher, a coach, senior leader, classroom assistant, as much as that, looking at what you've used it for and is it correct? Obviously, familiar AI applications. Now, it's been around for a while. When you think about it, a spell checker, it looks at your spelling. Is that word right? Does it match things? No, really basic AI, but it does work. And we've got predictive text there and translating. I'm sure, I don't know if any of you have tried it. If I've set my presentation up correctly, you should be able to use the translation tool within your own windows on Teams to translate the text that's in my presentation. In theory, that should work, assuming that the language packs in. But again, it's another use of AI. It's automatically scanning it to go through. And it's almost like predictive text on steroids is a way to look at it. AI analyzes patterns. It looks at words and combinations and what normally comes next. So, you know, in the morning, I like a cup of, and it would look at it and say, right, well, the most common responses that would come next might be tea or coffee. And it would then look at which one statistically, again, from analyzing data, what's there, and it might suggest coffee or tea, depending on the where it's sort of been trained from. Obviously, digital literacy and AI integration, skills for students and staff, learning and understanding how to use AI, what it is, and is widely used and supported. It more and more is it ingrained, and AI systems are embedded. Take the editor function in Word that will automatically go through. It'll judge your language. It'll look at your spellings. It'll suggest improvements to it, and that will go further. You can use the speaker coach in PowerPoint. That will use AI to say, are you talking too fast? Are you talking too slow? And I've used that a few times, and generally I do talk a little bit too fast. So please, if you do feel I am, or you miss a point, do let me know, and I will slow down or go back over it. But again, it's all there. It will look at your use of language. Is it inclusive? Are you saying too many words, or are you filling it with filler words like and as you're trying to maintain your thing? And again, it's all use of AI, and it's there and it's embedded. So, and obviously ethical and controlled use. We're looking at the use of AI with students. So we've got to make sure they're using it responsibly and they know how to use it responsibly. And how do we control that? I don't know if you want a quick show of hands in house. How many people use Teams on a regular basis? Get a quick sort of poll in the chat on that. Those are there. We got a couple of hands up. So that's a good one. So yeah, if you've noticed in Teams now, when you create an assignment for students, if you're using it with the class, there's now a section in there where you can say how you want your students or what level of AI use you will allow in AI. Is it just for research or brainstorming? Can they have full use of it? And that dropped, I think it was the end of last week as a feature that came in. So students' names off. What I would say with that is if you're uploading work, first of all, it kind of depends on the tool. But when you upload, if you upload a student's work into AI, you need to have their permission first because it's their intellectual property. But if I'm doing anything with student work, if it's just work, I would redact their names from it if it was being scanned. If it's digitally, I would remove their names. If it was data, I'd take out the names. Maybe I'd replace the names with a numbered list. So as long as I don't resort it, or I know I've got a separate list that lets me know which number is which student, I can then reintegrate or so. And no, not everybody does, and you are exactly right on that. And that is a huge problem and a good point of sort of education that certain sort of educators or leaders or people need. They'll just throw it in and without necessarily any thought to the platform that they're using. Assuming you have academic licenses for Microsoft thing, if you're signed in with your Microsoft account, you've got that data protection and the privacy. So that will protect the data. If you put names in it, it shouldn't leave your system. So in that way, you've got the protection. But you are correct. As a rule of thumb, if you are putting anything in, essays or anything, take off the student names. Try not to do it. And with other people that you work with, if they're talking about their use with AI, really make that point with them that actually names don't need to go in it. Replace names with numbers and do it that way. And if you don't need names at all, if you just want an overview of a class's essays, if you're putting it through a tool that you've got for feedback, it doesn't need their names. Because if you're looking at, overall in the class, what did everybody do well? What are the points for improvement? Then the names are irrelevant. You're just looking at that bank of essays. So we get to this mental model of AI. And again, these are some of the terms from the Elevate Educator Explorer AI course. This is, I think, the third section on the first one of the courses. And they use terms, it's like predictive text, but on a much, much larger scale. Looks for patterns, and then the algorithm gives what it believes is the most appropriate response. So effectively, when you put it in, every word is scored and ranked. And when data is put into training, it's broken down. It looks at the patterns for that. And that's how it works. It's pattern prediction. I got ahead of myself there. And you always get a really confident response from AI. Now, this is great. You read it and it looks absolutely fantastic. However, doesn't mean it's right. Who's heard of the term hallucinations with AI? Comes up quite a lot in Microsoft training and other things that I've done. But it will give a really, really confident sounding answer, but the facts aren't necessarily right, or there are some correct bits mixed in with lots of that. It's like someone trying to bluff their way through something. And you've got to really watch out for that. They'll come in and it'll sound really grand, lots of big words, lots of fancy terms, but it's not necessarily accurate. So we've got to think about that. And the type of language that you use. Now, what I'm not talking about at this point is the wording that you would put in a prompt when you're writing with AI. This is more for if you're having a discussion with people about how AI is going to be used. And the next slide, when we come on to that, is a little bit about that. Some examples from, again, the Microsoft training for it. But, it's not AI made me this. AI said that this was right. Don't use those. Use more precise. I used AI to generate something, or I drafted the letter that I'm going to send home to parents, or AI suggested some marking comments that we were going to use or that we could use. And then as the teacher, I read through all of that. I checked, the draft for the letter. Was it right? Were dates correct? Had it put anything in there that was wrong? Do I need to change anything? So be precise, that use of language with people. Oh, I've not used AI to do this. What it is, I used AI to draft a plan for my lesson. And then I went through and I checked that it was correct. So these are the Microsoft examples. Quite silly, I've done this. I can't actually hardly read them, but you can see them. The student says, oh, is AI thinking? And the response is going to be, well, because it looks like it reasons things out. You ask it a question, it'll give you an answer. But actually what it's doing, it's predicting a pattern from what you've said. The second one is about using AI to draft a message home to a family. With the example responsive, the system drafted the starting message. I've reviewed it, been through it. I've made sure it matches any policies, things like that. Just so you're letting people know, you're being transparent. I've used AI for that. And myself with my classes, I'm transparent. If I use AI to generate something, or if I had it add extra details to a Teams assignment, I'll tell them, I'll let them know where it's being used, because that's important. Because if we start hiding the use of it as educators and we're not letting students know, then why should they tell us or be honest with us about their use of AI? And the third one we've got here is an instructional coach that says, oh, the AI knows. Well, again, the AI doesn't know us, but the system can spot patterns. And we go through, so have a look. So yeah, so AI play, and that's good. That's really, really similar, actually. I can't bring it up at the moment to the new bit that's coming to Teams on an assignment to put it in. But yeah, a scale is really good. I talked to a teaching and learning lead at another school last year, and we talk about AI, and we came up with a suggestion that actually if students are using it, and you're not going to stop them using it, if you tell them, no, you can't use AI, they're likely to go away and try and use it without you knowing and see what they can get past you. But if they are using it, well, what can you do? Well, you could think of possibly a scale a bit like spelling and grammar gets marked in exams. If it's really, really bad with spelling and grammar, you're going to lose marks. So if they've used AI to do a huge portion of their work, they're not going to get as many marks because it's not their work. And then if it gets less and less, that mark deduction goes up. So very much along those same lines as it, no AI at all, use AI in planning, collaborate with it to help it refine, full use or sort of AI for exploration. And with my groups now, where I put the AI bit on Teams, it's for research and brainstorming, not for actually creating it, but as almost a sounding board to bounce ideas off or trying to see if they're on the right lines. So, supporting classroom practice. So there are lots of ways we can think about this, and this is where we start to get on to the sort of the teach module bit, which I'll show you and I'll put up. But help generate lesson outlines, suggest objectives, offer differentiation of ideas, save time planning, and obviously you can use it to differentiate as well. So classroom delivery, supports generating discussion questions, rephrasing concepts, better student engagement and understanding. So you could have something up there. If a student asks a question, that's good. How can we say it? Well, let's see what it is. You could ask the students to go away and look at it to rephrase a concept. Copilot is great. You could tell it to, rephrase something. My teacher has asked me to do this, or I've been given this question. Could you explain it to me in a simpler way, whilst maintaining the right context? So it will change some of the words in it and simplify it, which is a really sort of powerful thing. Assessments. So AI assists by creating quizzes. So we're not necessarily looking at marking here, although it can do. Draft model answers. Suggest feedback, which the teacher refines for accuracy. So you could build an agent in Copilot. We're sort of looking ahead at other things there. But even for a prompt, you could give it an exam question. You could attach a mark scheme to it and allow it to use information from there and ask it to draft you model answers at different grading levels, which again, that human element, I won't flick the slide back, but I used AI to generate some example model answers. I then checked these against the mark scheme and existing model answers to see if they're right, but then students can look through and use those. I'll use it to draft examples of code for students. What might your code look like? Reminding them that, of course, when we're doing programming, so obviously that's my subject, that there's not actually just one way of doing it. The AI has suggested one way I might approach it, but that might not be the way. But it can suggest feedback to it. Again, the rubrics in Teams, you can generate those through Teach. We'll look at that and then attach them to the site. But also, after you've selected the bits from the rubric, you can have it generate a section of feedback for students that'll tell them what they've done well, what they could develop. But if you add additional comments into the rubric or in the feedback, you can have it make sure those are included. And then inclusion. So all our SEND students with a whole range of different needs, and it might be from just language needs of something in a different language, might be reading level. We can use AI to help personalize that learning and give the students the power for it. We can convert it as teachers for them. That's fine. In your planning, you might choose to create it at different levels, or if we're giving the students access to it, Copilot can be used from 13 plus now, and there are suite of tools that can do that, or the students can just add it in and they can ask it to simplify it, make the text less complicated, ask it for the key points for it, if that's what you're asking them to do. And it can do that for them. So we've got at our hands, and the students have at theirs, tools that are going to make everything much more accessible. So we're all at different stages with the use of AI, and reflection is key to this. And again, this comes from the second of the Elevate Explorer sort of AI pathway courses. And it's, are you already using AI within your teaching and learning? And we're reflecting on it. How are we using it? How has that use been? Has it saved you time? Or has it actually produced something that's terrible and you've had to go through and redo that? So, what did you use it for? When you used that AI, especially that first time, what was it for? What sort of made you sort of dip your toe in the water with it? And did it get it right first time? If it didn't, what did you need to change? And that's that key thing. And I go through this a lot of time with my students and myself, that iterative development of a prompt. You might write your prompt to begin with, but don't necessarily expect it to get it right. Look at what might it change, what might have to be done differently. So again, a little bit of a break from me. How have you used AI, especially that first time that you used it? How did it go? What did you do with it? Did you get results? Did it work well? Almost more importantly, if it didn't work well, why not? Because that's how we learn. I always talk about fail with my students in programming and everything. It's that first attempt in learning. Where did it go well? So I will give you, again, about 2 minutes. Have a think and share some examples, and then we'll look at those before we go on and actually have a look at the teach module. You just joined us. I am sure the recording will be available. We're just at the moment looking at just reflecting a little bit on our use of AI, what's worked, what's not done, or what's not worked well. Why do you think it didn't work well? What went wrong? Because, well, if anybody's got any questions at this point as well, feel free to raise your hand. I think we can sort of unmute you.
Yeah, you can even unmute yourself and tell your experience.
Oh, yeah.
You're lazy to type.
Wasn't sure how we got it set for people to be able to
Yeah.
unmute themselves.
Yeah, we can.
So yeah, feel free to write in the chat, or if you want to just turn your camera on at this point and just ask a question or share an experience, feel free to do that. As we sort of we're going through like this, I will sort of demo some bits of teach after, but feel free to share. I say I've not used Claude yet. I know I've got a few. There are a few members of staff here at the DBC. A lot of people say it's quite good. I tend to stick with Copilot, or if I'm my youngest students, because of the age limit on Copilot at the minute for signing in, I use a platform called Magic School, and that's got a writing feedback thing in, and that's almost like a whole bunch of agents. That's good for younger students, but obviously within here we'll stick to Copilot. But yeah, being able to put the marking skills in, just look for bad habits, and it might be that just the way that they're constructing their sentences is that. And sometimes I think something that's strict with marking is almost a little bit better, because if you get a good result from something that you know is being really harsh and will only give it if it's very, very clear what something is, you know that on anything else, or if it's stricter than how you find exam marking to be, that your students are definitely moving in the right direction and should be getting the grades that we predict. Yeah, and that's a brilliant thing when you've got that kind of analysis of something, especially if you've done it on either one student's work or a whole classes of work. You can look for those common misconceptions and use it to generate something on that. And that is a really, really powerful tool, a real benefit of AI. When we think about the time it would take to sit down and not only mark just an entire class set of papers, but then to perform a question level analysis to look for all those common threads. It's a long, long time. And if we can do that in, minutes rather than hours, even if it's, 20 minutes of copying everything in and creating your prompt for it, it's still saved a massive amount of time. And there is always that as well. So, but again, when it's assessing things, especially if you've got AI looking at a grade, always mark it sort of yourself, because I teach the Cambridge Nationals OCR in Creative iMedia, and they're very strict AI guidelines for students. In terms of the marking, it's really quite strange. So you could use AI to mark the work, but you've then got to go through and mark it yourself to check that the AI was right. So you're sort of moderating the AI. So effectively, they don't allow you to use AI to mark it, because you still got to do it yourself. But it could give you an idea. So hopefully the AI and your guidance on that, Yvette, is going to point them in the right direction. They will do fine. Few months for that, obviously. I think the IGCSEs are August as well, aren't they? Like the normal ones. Now our year 11s are sort of about halfway through all the exam season now, with maths tomorrow morning. So don't think anybody else have anything they want to share. On that, I don't. The only exam I think I know that we have here that is done on computers, and I don't know if that's automatically marked as a hospitality and catering one. I believe there is a trial or something going on with a computer science one. I'm not sure what exam board that is. And whether it actually auto marks as they go, or it's just a way of going in and it's all just answered on computer, and then it's still marked by an examiner once it's all finished. I know the kind of the golden aim for exams is to eliminate is for everything to be digital, and for tiered papers effectively to disappear. And as you're answering the questions on the system, the AI is looking at your answers and gauging the level of your answers and challenging you, giving you progressively harder ones to try and push you to sort of to gauge where your level is. How close to that being, I haven't got it, but yeah, adaptive testing, exactly like that. I don't know how well that would work with things like English language and so on. In subjects like science and maths, especially where it's, you know, very clearly this is right, this is wrong, I think it could work really well on that. In other subjects, I don't necessarily think it's going to work, because it's just a long written answer, so there can't be any judgment made until it's finished. So it would have to wait, and then when you've finished, you click it and it would mark. Certainly here in the UK, not quite AI, but there is now an app that students will be able to sign into at the end of the year, or when it comes to the results day, and they'll get the results through the app to say, you know, which they'll then be able to use to show what their grades are as they go through, rather than having to sort of hold on to lots of pieces of paper. So I don't think there's anybody else with anything to share. I don't think I've missed any questions or any hands up. Just let Yvette finish typing, and then we'll move on. Not so much adaptive assessments. I've used Copilot, and I created an agent to produce a revision guide for students where it links to the specification and some other sort of, you know, lots of more information, and that's based around that, a bit like a revision guide. And so it can ask that, and then it's designed, and I've in it within its prompt where I constructed it, it will ask students questions. Just in general, it will look at the spec, it'll do their answers, and it will try and look at their misconceptions. Certain things can do that. There are probably tools that do that, but I'm not sure. Yes, Nusra, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to add something to that question.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, on adaptive assessment with AI, maybe a month or 2 months ago, yeah, I was doing a session to create a quiz, adaptive quizzes using Microsoft Forms. So it was not actually AI based, but you can do it manually using Microsoft Form, using the branching, you know, things.
Yeah,
if you're using Copilot, yeah, that will be helpful. Just a tip.
Yeah, when we look at Teach in a minute, actually now within Teach you can create forms quizzes, and it will automatically generate kind of an AI sort of prompt at the end of it. It's more sort of like to do with like correcting what an answer is. which is quite good. Now, that used to be locked behind the Copilot 365 license, but they brought that out and it's available to everybody. But I think the more adaptive questioning things and tests can get, that is really, really useful. Right, so before we look at teach, and it's not a sort of, oh, go on, sorry, is that just someone's camera on, or somebody have a question?
You can carry on. I think it's background noise.
Yeah. So I put title this one just a note on prompting. So when we do sort of the next session, I'll talk a little bit more about prompting as well as a few other things for the application process. But prompting is different to creating a search. And I stress this with my students, and I talk about it with staff as well, is that with AI, when you're using it, whereas a search is really, really vague, you know, how do I look after the vegetables in my garden or something, or what's the best way to care for something, or how do I make a cake or something? A prompt needs to be really, really specific. And the more detail you put in it, the better your output is at the other end. And the simplest way I break it down, and there are all sorts of guides and ways that this gets interpreted, but the way I sort of think of it is, look, give it a role. Who is it being? Who is it creating the content as? Is it a member of SLT? Is it a teacher? Do you want it to create an example of something like it's been written by a student? In which case, you know, so a role, an age range, you know, who is it going to be? Then what is it actually going to create? So, you know, take on the role of a year 7 student who is creating a written passage or an essay about whatever it is, who it's for. So again, because it's a year 7 student that's doing it, they might be creating it for year 6 or for younger primary school children, or they might be looking at how they would create something for an older audience. So who it is, what it's making, the audience, so who it's for, and then as many specific details and bits of information that must be included to it as you can get into it, really. You know, a prompt doesn't have to be a short couple of sentences. It might be 200-300 words long, and some of them can be. But that could also include links to specific documents. So if you've got something that you want it to reference or use, you can attach that to it. Any websites you might want to use, anything like that, you can put all of that in those details, and that's going to help you get a much more specific output. And I'm not saying that every prompt needs to be really, really long. Sometimes just a quick statement can do it, and it might be that it's just more of that iterative process where you just keep refining what it is you want. But sort of as a starting 4-step rule, you know, who it is, what it's making, who it's for, and then what needs to be in it. All that specific content would be what I'd put in. So that's sort of an overview, and that's all bits that come into the sort of educator explorer part. There's one of them looking at, you know, when to use AI in your classroom, and then the reflective practice on it. How is it being used? So that's sort of, right, I want to use it, how have you used it, with a bit of exploration between the two and how you might approach talking about it. What we've got then in Copilot, and one of the things on this was like workload reduction, because, you know, workload as teachers and educators at whatever level it might be can be absolutely horrendous. There can be so much to do and so little time. You always look at teaching, one of those few jobs where you come to work early to do work, to prepare for the work that you've got to do, and then you've got to go home to mark the work that you've done. And, you know, where's your time go? You know, we've got to have time for ourselves. So things that can save us time are really important. And from that, we got Copilot Teach. So you can find this, and I'm going to change my screen in a minute. I'm going to actually share a window so you can see it. But when we go on, there we go, to sort of just Copilot Chat is the bit I'm using there. We've got a new chat, we've got search your own ones you've done, we've got library for the pages, and then we've got Teach. And the Teach module has 4 sort of separate groupings of sort of specific agents or apps, tools, whatever name you want to do them, but they're broken down into curriculum planning, modifying existing content, homework and resources, and then learning activities. And they are constantly adding to these. So this is really useful. I'll sort of, that video playing there, you can just see a really quick sort of screen grab of what they look like. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to change my screen. So hopefully, those are some of you can just, if someone wants to turn that mic on, you should be able to see my Edge window now. I think, and I've got the teach up.
Yeah, we can see.
Yeah. But so
Great.
obviously I'm in Copilot chat here. I've already clicked on teach, and you can see then here in the middle, we've got curriculum planning, modify existing content, homework, and learning resources. So we talk about using AI to help support in the generation of resources. And there are a few that I've done already here over the last sort of month or so. But we've got lesson plan, so we can create a lesson plan. For those people that might be using Minecraft Education, I use it. If you've not, there's loads in it for more than just computing and for playing games. But you have the Minecraft Education lesson plan, which will help design a lesson for you and how you can use that. The unit planner will be, I imagine, for a whole scheme of work. This is not available yet. It's been coming soon for about a month and a half, if not 2 months. So hopefully that should arrive soon. In terms of modifying existing comments, so we look at that personalizing learning and supporting students with other needs. We can add a document to it to modify its reading level. So you could make that either sort of simpler or harder. You can pick the level and it will do that. And if there are any specific terms you want to preserve that's in there, I don't actually have a file that works very well with that to hand at the moment. But differentiate instructions. So if you've got them, if they're really big, if you've done quite a big instruction set on Teams, you could drop your instructions in here. And again, change it. Do you want it step by step, an example answer, hints, here's 7. How long do you want it to be compared to the original? Then you've got 50,000 characters and it will read the characters from file as well. Support with examples. So do you want it to create some examples for something? And again, the type, real world, historic, scientific. So certainly for computing, I tried to use real world examples because that's in our curriculum where we look at real world problems. Again, how deep do you want it to be and how many? And then align to standards. So you would sort of had your text in there. And obviously here I've got it set to the national curriculum standards, but you've got, depending on where you are in the world, there are many, many different educational standards in there that you can add in, and they are adding more all of the time. So, you know, hopefully yours are in there, UK ones are in there, the GCSEs and things, those have gone in there. So, you know, GCE, A-level business studies, so on. So those are in there. But if I stick to England, Key Stage 3, obviously Key Stage 4 would take me to GCSE subjects for my years 7, 8, 9, so 11 to 14. Bigger subjects. And then you can sort of align them. Not everything's in there yet, but we've got English in there for reading, writing, grammar, and spoken. We've got various ones for maths, for science, and for social studies. Within Teams and some of the other bits, though, you can link to standards for computing and design arts and things. Homework, we can create rubrics. So this is, again, nice and simple, and all of this links to Teams. I would go on there. So English, and they've updated it. So English is United Kingdom. I can give it a name. So colours, example of a rubric. So students' understanding of the use of colour in film and TV. So I could add my standards, but if I click next, it's going to go through and it suggests some criteria. So for the sake, I'm just going to add them all for this. And then I could pick how I want it to set my rubric up. So excellent, good and fair, or exceeds, meets below, yes, no, or customized. So go for exceeds, meets below, generate. And what it's going to do here, it's going to produce a draft again. So I've used AI to generate a draft of a marking rubric. I can go through then, I can add more detail in terms of the length and things. So we'll actually expand on it, make it more detailed. So that's generally 2 sentences. So I can regenerate it. And this would actually, if it's correct, this might fit in with my iMedia students when we look at the use of color. So, explain how contrasting colors are used. So this works good for visual identity and graphic design. Shows understanding use of colors symbolize ideas in film and TV. So that's quite good. Could be more specific, but in a general starting point, if we're looking at how blue represents cold or orange might be warm, that works. But once I've done that, I've been through and I've checked it, it's saved to OneDrive. So that's just going to stick that generally in there. And that saves that as a Word document for me. But what I get after that is I can export it as a CSV. So I could edit it and I could import that to Teams, or I can save it straight to assignments on Teams. And what that means now is when I set up an assignment on Teams and I go to assign rubric, I can pick this from my list of rubrics. It's already there within 30 seconds to 2 minutes, depending on when within its refresh cycle it is. That's there and it's waiting for me. No, let's go back all the way through. So learning activities, flashcards, fill in the blanks, matching them. The quiz one, someone meant, obviously we talked about quizzes before. So I could go on there and a content. So binary numbers and addition using no more than 8 bits. I could add more content. I could add the standards, but again, in this particular interface, those aren't in there, but I can do that. I could set the number of questions, no more than 10. I could set a time limit, but I could also say there should be 5 multi-choice and 5 long answer questions. So that's on there. Time limit, if I want to set them a time limit for it, I would imagine that 15 minutes. I can tell it to generate. And really very quickly, it could be for a knowledge retrieval task at the start of a lesson. It may be that within it, they're getting on and actually what I want to do is just check the understanding partway through the lesson. So I could quickly put a quiz together. And again, this will save into my form so I could attach that as an assignment. But what I get after that is it's giving me 100 points because I didn't tell it there should only be 10 points. So it defaults to making every question worth 10 points. But it gives me them and I get an explanation for the answers for all of my questions. It explains what's going on, even for the written answer ones. And at the end, when I've gone through, if I did this quiz, it would give me some personalized feedback on what I did wrong, what I need to then move on to, what I need to revisit, what my personal sort of misconceptions and errors were. And that works really well. And I have done a binary one and one about sort of CPU, RAM and storage with some of my groups. And that feedback has been really, really useful for them. So the teach module is really, really good. I'll just discard that because I've already got one for binary. But again, even with the Minecraft one, I'll use binary again. The binary numbers, but again, I set what it is, and here it's allowing me to pick sort of computing. But we can go through and it will generate it. And it'll tell me, how they can be represented. No. How they can be represented. Obviously, it's really short. It's not an ideal prompt for a lesson at all. It should be much, much longer. But then it goes through and tells me recommended materials, preparation. If you've never used Minecraft Education, there are some direct links to some courses and information about how things can be used. And then how the lesson can progress, what to talk about, how to model it, sharing the builds, reflecting back on it. So you've got that there. And the lesson plan one, again, really good, really quick, can save a lot of time. You know, it might take you 20 minutes to write a prompt, but depending, or iterate it to get what you want, but it is still going to save time. So if I go back to my presentation, which hopefully works. So it's come up and so we're almost sort of through to time. So into the last one, there is one more sort of step on the Explorer. Is once you've completed the 2 learning pathways that are there, there is a survey, which is a bit like a quiz that you just have to fill in, which asks you questions about what you've done, so your practice, and that goes through and you fill that in and that completes it. And I will get those questions so we can look at those next time. But in terms of getting started and beginning your journey, there are 2 platforms that you need to sign up for if you've not done it already. The first is the Microsoft Learn platform, which is where all of the learning pathways and the courses are. And I've put links on here, and the QR codes link to the relevant places, or the links within the presentation should be live for you as well, so you can click on them. So you'll need a Learn profile. You'll also need to get yourself set up on the Elevate Educator portal, and I'll look at that and we'll sort of go through some bits of that next time. But one thing you've got to be sure of, and you have to match up, and it will tell you if this is wrong. Whatever name you have on the Elevate Educator platform and how you've structured it. So I might have done like A Parsons on Learn, but I might have Aaron Parsons on the Elevate Educator portal. Those 2 names have got to match. So certainly when I was going through and redoing things where the platform launched, I had to go back into Learn and I had to change it to say Aaron Parsons rather than Mr. A Parsons, because it looks at the names, and when you share your profile link, it automatically checks if the courses have been done, which they'll go say, yes, they're done, do the survey, and then it will go through. And when that's completed, that will award you a Credly badge. So the Elevate Educator Explorer pathway is open all of the time. At any point within your academic year, when you get time, you could apply for, and you can be awarded that. The expert pathway, and I think with what we've gone through today, I'll touch a bit more on that next time. The expert pathway is only open within a limited window. Now, that is actually currently running. So if you've already been using sort of AI or Copilot or Teams, things like that, it might be something you want to look at. But again, there are some separate courses in there, some other sort of long answer questions, but you have to have completed Explorer first, and the expert pathway opened about middle of last month. It's open all of this month, and I believe it's open till the end of July. When you sign up on the Educator portal, the Elevate Educator portal, it's all on there. And once you completed one, it will allow you to then progress onto the other. With, again, there's a little bit of a survey, and there are some questions to answer about how you've been using AI and your thoughts on the community. But that window is open now as well. Should anybody have actually already completed the Explorer part of it. So in terms of today, that brings us to the end. Which I think I'm pretty much to time. Are there any questions from anyone? Because anything clearing up from anything that I've said? I've just seen your wow event. What was that for? The look at the teach and things. Feel free to unmute and speak. We don't have to sort of limit yourself to the chat if you don't want to.
Yeah, we would love to hear the voices.
I just thought back, so oh wow! It's like, so what was your wow moment? I love hearing what these are for people.
I think we can't hear you.
I'm doubly muted. I'm doing can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's quite quiet. I just turn my volume, must be fine.
Oh, okay. There we go. Now.
There we go.
Better?
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
now better.
So yeah, so I'm doing a smart ed tech in France, and I just finished my internship. And actually, the company that I did it with, they're like an online English school, and they're actually trying to build something like what you just showed, but yours obviously is a lot more complete. So I'm gonna have to tell them they need to they need to go back to the drawing board and think of something that you haven't thought of yet.
Yeah, I mean that in itself is really interesting. Certainly, I know when
Yeah.
we had a push, it was about 2 years ago. So, oh, there's got to be digital support for SEN students. They need all of this and this and that, and Senkos and everywhere, running around like headless chickens. Oh, we've got to buy this. We've got to buy this. I'm like, no, it's like we've got this. The Microsoft, it's all
Yeah.
built in there for translating things or for speech to text or to read the text to speech or to simplify things. The Teach platform stuff wasn't there, but you could still use it. I said, we've got everything used. Most schools that have got, certainly Microsoft, and there's probably similar things in Google Classroom, but I'm not very familiar with that at all. Though it's all
Yeah,
built in.
I
You know,
imagine all the big companies are going to be doing that now. And it's just like, okay, like stop before you like spend a lot of money on developing this, like look at this and see if you
yeah,
can use it instead, right?
yeah, because
Because if it already does the job well, then if it ticks all
yeah,
the boxes, especially, like changing content for like different neurodiverse profiles, then you don't have to, go and spend thousands of euros developing that if you can save that money.
exactly. There's an MIE expert just down the road from where I
Mhm,
am in at Sherborne Girls' School. She's a Spanish teacher, and she uses reading progress. It's one of the learning accelerators, but it's done in she just has it all set up in Spanish. So
mhm.
her students do that, and that will identify words that they mispronounce. It'll judge their pronunciation and so on. So it's a good sort of homework thing or like an additional learning. She'll set that with them, and I'm sure she'll carry on to use that as she moves over later on this year to a school in Singapore. Sort of carry on using that and the way she used that. And again, the other things like the quizzes in
Mhm,
Teach as
mhm.
well. And for students, it went live about a month ago. There's the Study and Learn agent that's in there that's designed for adaptive scaffolding is probably
Mhm.
the best way to put it. If you've not got, it's available for any academic license thing. Your network people will need to make sure agents are turned on, but if they are, as staff, you should just see it, and it looks like just a little purple mortarboard. It's called Study and Learn, and
Mhm.
the quizzes and the matching and all those exercises that are in Teach appear in there, but students could use them. So they could use them to create revision flashcards or fill in the blanks, explain to it what they're learning. And that's what it's designed about. They could
Mhm,
attach a
mhm.
course spec or a knowledge organizer or a workbook with it all in there. And then they can, interact with it like a tutor or a revision aid, and it will quiz them and it will generate the quizzes for them. It will score it and,
And
feedback
so
to
in
them.
terms of the quizzes, like the ones that you showed us, they're just forms, so they're a little bit dry. Is there another option to create quizzes that have pictures in them or that are a little
So,
bit more appealing to young learners?
so not with forms. If I just
Mm-mm-mm.
actually go back to my window, if I go to, I'll keep it in Teach, but so here, matching up. Um, I haven't written enough in there. Let me find. So there we go. So there are matching ones. So RAM is memory that loses its path. Nope, volatile memory. This is that. So you've got match ones that you can put in there. There are fill in the blank exercises. So you can drag those in there.
To be nice for like older learners, but for the moment, like I suppose if you create a form, you could still go in and add the pictures if you wanted.
Yeah. So
right?
if you knew what the content was, you could have it create the quiz, and then you could go in and add those to it. So you could still do that to make that more engaging for the younger learners. That is, however, a really interesting suggestion. Whether Microsoft have thought about that, I don't know. How easy it is then to implement, I'm not entirely sure, for it to actually put the pictures in forms. But if you could be specific about, there'd be a question that would include this, you can then, like you said, go in and just attach the image to the question as you go. So that's perfectly possible.
And I guess I had another question. What was it again? No, it's gone out of my mind. Yeah, no, can't remember. Oh yeah, so the reading progress thing, is that when you are running a Teams classroom and then
so
it's based on that data, or where does that come from?
You set it as an assignment in the learning accelerators. We don't really have time for me to go through that, but when you create an assignment,
I can read up about it.
Yeah, it's in there.
Okay.
Certainly, if you want anything about use of your languages, I can reach out to Hema, because with computing, we don't use it that much, but she's used it to great effect over the last sort of couple of years with her students for that. So, but yeah, that's in there. That's reading progress, and there's reading coach as well.
Okay.
Nice. I think reading, one of them you find through the immersive reader, I think, as well. So if you look in there, it should be in that.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, and I think though that brings us to the end now. So just about an hour with sometimes, so that's good. I didn't think it was actually going to reach that.
Sorry for all my questions.
No, that's fine. I just I'm waiting for someone to wait for me to say so going or be told that I'm going to be left here at work by my wife. So
yeah, thank you, Aaron. Thank you very much. I can see you're still at school. Your dedication, to share your knowledge and passion. Thank you very much for spending the time with us. And I would love our participants to, give us the feedback. We have shared the feedback form here. And also you can earn a credit badge from Microsoft using the link that is provided here. And another note I want to share, if you do any AI related activities in your school, maybe with your colleagues or with the students, you can use this link to give them credit badge as well. So yeah, we would be happy to share that. And so I think it's time to wrap up. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you in our next session as well. And special thanks to, I don't know how to pronounce your name, Yvette. Is it correct?
Yeah, that's it.